Alright guys, so today I'm going to explain why grammar difficulty does not matter and you shouldn't really worry about it when you're learning a new language. So, grammar is one of the things that people focus on too much when it comes to trying to acquire a second language or like a foreign language. And the problem with focusing too much on grammar study and focusing too much on conscious effort of trying to understand the language consciously is just the fact that you're never going to understand the grammar fully, consciously. There's linguists today that still argue with like how the grammar is with certain languages. So, so being able to fully understand the grammar of a certain language consciously is nearly impossible to do with their brains. But it's not impossible with their subconscious brain because humans have a language acquisition device in our brains. Every human has this, right? And this device is specifically dedicated to decoding language patterns like grammar, vocabulary, to be able to understand language instantly. When I say a word in English or what I'm talking right now, you guys are instantly understanding everything I'm saying the moment I say it. There's no delay. It's not like when I say this phrase, you understand it like, 5 seconds later. It's like, no, the moment I say something, you instantly understand it the moment I say it. The moment it hits your ears, your subconscious brain decodes the sounds and projects it up to consciousness with meaning all at the same time. Right? And this is language. This is language acquisition. This is your subconscious brain working and decoding the patterns. And the reason why language, like grammar, at least like grammar, does not matter, guys, because no matter how complex the grammar of a certain language might be, as long as you give your brain enough exposure to that language, over time, your brain will just figure it out on its own. It's literally just going to figure out the grammar like this. And what once used to be super hard to comprehend consciously will now become hopelessly automatic, right? Which means that, you obtain ability where you cannot help but understand it. Like, even if you tried to not understand what I'm saying right now, you would still understand what I'm saying. That's why when people don't want to get spoiled for movies, they cover their ears like this, right? They cover their ears if they don't want to get spoiled with the show. Reason is because they can't control them from not understanding what they're saying. So like, if you didn't want to get spoiled on a show, right? Like you would have to cover your ears to block the sounds. Because if your ears heard the sounds, you'd instantly understand it without even wanting to. Like even if you didn't want to understand the spoilers, you couldn't help but understood the spoilers if someone was talking about it. Like you'd have to cover your ears. So that's how automatic language is. Like it's like you can't help but understand it. Like it gets to this level of it being automatic to the point where like you don't have to require any conscious thinking because you can't help but understand it. This is ability. This is not knowledge at all. And this is something that can be cultivated through exposure of the language, through input, specifically like comprehensible input. So that's what like when people try to tackle like hard domains, like really hard literary domains of Japanese, or when you try to tackle classical Arabic, like I heard that like classical Arabic is very different than the Arabic they speak on the streets, like in the Middle East. And I heard that the Quran grammar is like very complex in Arabic. But here's the thing, you guys don't need to worry about the complex grammar. Because here's the thing, if you just get exposure to classical Arabic, you just basically take time reading classical Arabic, right, every day. You learn every single word. Like you basically just memorize every single word, in Anki or whatever. Over time, you're going to be able to your brain's going to slowly figure out and familiarize itself with the grammar patterns, despite it being super complex, right? Because there's a lot of complex grammar patterns in Japanese that I just picked up like this, just because I just gave it enough immersion, gave it enough exposure to it. So my brain was able to figure out the grammar patterns without me having to try. And this is what you want to do. So if you guys are trying to learn classical Arabic or like a language that uses extremely complex grammar, the only solution is to just get more exposure, right? The only thing I think you guys should focus on consciously when it comes to focusing your conscious study is to consciously study vocab. Because vocabulary is the problem, right? For most languages, the reason why you don't understand crap is because vocabulary. You just don't know enough words, right? Now here's the thing, guys. Once you know all the words in a TV show or in like a certain domain, now all that's left to acquire is the grammar. Because if you read a sentence and you literally know all the words in there and the rough meaning, you can decipher sort of what the sentence means, even if you haven't fully acquired the grammar, because at least you know all the words in there, right? But if you didn't know any of the words, then how would you be able to acquire the grammar? So do you guys see how, like, in order for you to acquire grammar in a language, you're going to have to first learn the vocab. Now, here's the thing. This is very specific, right? Obviously, immersion is where everything happens. Exposure to the language is where everything, all the magic happens in the brain, where your brain just starts to automatically decode the language to the point where you can't help but understand something, to the point where you have to cover your ears to avoid spoilers, right? It will get to this point, but you can accelerate this by learning conscious study with vocabulary. But what a lot of people tend to do is they focus their conscious studying effort towards grammar too. Like maybe some people do a combination of grammar and vocabulary. What I'm saying is don't do any conscious study of grammar, right? Like don't even look at the grammar. Like when I learned Japanese, bro, like I literally ignored grammar. I didn't care. All I was focused on was learning new words. So I just basically only dedicated my conscious studying, right, to acquiring more vocab, to memorizing more words, because that's the main problem, is memorizing words. Like people just don't know enough words, right? Because how is your brain going to figure out the grammar if you don't even know the words in the sentence? So that's why the foundation is vocab. So memorize the vocab and then immerse in the language to solidify the vocab and the grammar. Because the grammar will, over time, by itself, solidify, and you'll be able to acquire the grammar effortlessly. And you'll be familiar with like the complex grammar patterns that might appear in classical Arabic or archaic like literary Japanese. Like you'll be able to parse the grammar. Like you'll be able to get to the point where you'll be able to do it. But what you need is vocab. So that's why with me, like, you know, no matter how difficult the grammar might be for a certain language, it doesn't even matter to me, because it's like I'm just focused on the vocab, and the acquisition is going to fill in the gaps for me of the grammar. You know, now, like, you know, I'm not against like looking up some grammar points like here and there. Like let's say you're reading something or you're immersing in something and you keep hearing like a certain grammar pattern and you can't quite understand why, right? And you're like, what is this? Like, I just keep hearing this. So, you know, you ask ChatGPT, like, okay, can you explain this real quick for me? Oh, it explains like perfectly, and then you immediately get it. Like, this is what I do. Like, it's just like a grammar pattern in Japanese that like I hadn't yet acquired yet, but I just kept seeing, and I was like just curious like what it was about. I would just ask ChatGPT and explain it to me in Japanese, and it'll explain me the exact like meaning of it in Japanese and like, you know, how what it actually means. And I was like, oh, easy. Like it was just super easy to acquire that grammar, you know. Like there was a recent one where it was like there's a grammar pattern for yoginaku sareru, you know, yoginaku sareru, and it basically means like shikata natte. So, you know, it's like kyosei teki ni, you know, it basically means like it couldn't help but happen kind of thing. That's what it means. It's like the same type of, it's like a very similar meaning to sezaru enai meaning. And the same is like very similar to the iao nashi. So that's like another grammar. I mean, the iao nashi is like a word, but it's like iao nashi means like, okay, it couldn't help but that had to happen. Like basically like it was inevitable to happen, or like it's hard to explain in English. But anyway, like, you know, all these like complicated grammar, and like I was able to just like figure it out like on my own, you know. So that's the thing, guys. Grammar, the complexity of grammar should not be a worry, right, when it comes to tackling a new language. The only thing you should be worried about is, okay, I need to be learning words consciously, right? So focus all your conscious study on learning new words, and then after that, just let immersion take care of itself. The immersion will take care of solidifying the vocab and the grammar, right? And after that, you're good. And that's what I did. And I think that's the most efficient way to do it, because you cannot grapple the grammar of something consciously. I don't care who you are. Like even if you're a genius, it's just impossible, nearly impossible, to try to grasp the grammar consciously, because it's something that can't be understood consciously, is what I'm saying. Only your subconscious brain can decode it for you, right? So that's the thing, guys. So that's something I want to keep in mind. That's one thing I want you guys to keep in mind, okay? So yeah, guys, but that's it for today.